Something unusual is happening with our jet stream that's about to flip winter weather patterns upside down across North America. I'm looking at computer models right now that show a polar vortex split, creating what meteorologists call a polar express pattern. Cold air that's been bottled up in Canada for weeks is about to break free, and the timing couldn't be more critical for holiday travel. Over 200 million Americans could experience temperatures 20 to 30 degrees below normal by Christmas week. I'm Michael Thompson, and today is Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. In the next 22 minutes, I'll walk you through exactly what this dramatic weather flip means for your winter. But here's what makes this different from typical cold snaps. This pattern could lock in place for weeks, potentially through New Year's. I'm pulling data from this morning's model runs that emergency planners across 15 states are using to prepare for infrastructure impacts. At precisely 3 minutes, I'll break down exactly what each region can expect, starting with a storm system that's strengthening as we speak. So here's the thing that has meteorologists genuinely concerned. We've got what's called a zonal flow pattern about to collapse. For the past several weeks, storm systems have been racing straight across from Canada, staying mostly north of the U.S. border. But that's all changing Wednesday night when a powerful storm system dips south and begins to negatively tilt. In meteorology terms, that means this storm is about to rapidly intensify while pulling Arctic air down behind it. I just talked with emergency management officials who are calling this the most significant pattern change they've tracked since early 2021. What does this mean for families planning Christmas travel? We're looking at a complete reversal from the mild weather many areas have enjoyed. Here's what caught my attention in this morning's data. The pressure reading on this storm system, 983 millibars by Thursday morning. That's an incredibly deep, low pressure for the Great Lakes region, indicating this system is going to pack a serious punch. Now here's where this story gets really interesting. The polar vortex disruption that's driving all of this chaos. A stratospheric warming event has essentially broken apart the polar vortex, creating what scientists call a split configuration. This allows Arctic air masses to escape their normal boundaries and plunge deep into the continental United States. Why are long-range forecasters so confident about this pattern? Because stratospheric warming events have predictable downstream effects. The last time we saw a similar setup was January 2021, which brought record cold to Texas and power grid failures. But wait, there's something developing that might surprise you about the timing of this weather flip. Instead of gradual cooling, we're looking at what meteorologists call a flash freeze scenario for multiple regions. Temperatures in places like Chicago could drop from 45 degrees Wednesday to 10 degrees by Friday morning. How does a weather pattern suddenly shift this dramatically? It all comes down to something called meridional flow. The jet stream, which has been running fairly straight west to east, is about to develop deep waves and dips. This creates a direct pipeline for Arctic air to flow from northern Canada straight down into the American Midwest and East. Let me share something that really concerns me about this setup: the persistence factor. Computer models are showing this blocked weather pattern lasting potentially through the first week of January. At exactly 3 minutes, here's your detailed regional breakdown. Northeast, you guys are first in line for this dramatic change. Current conditions show temperatures in the 30s and 40s, actually quite mild for mid-December. Boston is sitting at 42 degrees right now. But Wednesday night, everything changes. A clipper system races through with light snow, followed by the real story, plummeting temperatures. By Thursday night, Burlington could see temperatures crash to 5 below zero. That's a 50-degree temperature swing in 48 hours. The 48 to 72-hour outlook includes dangerous wind chills approaching minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit from upstate New York through northern Maine. For folks making weekend plans in the Northeast, this is life-threatening cold. Have backup heating sources ready. Southeast, this one's going to shock you. Current conditions show record warmth continuing in many areas. Atlanta hit 73 degrees yesterday. That's 15 degrees above normal. But this Arctic blast isn't stopping at the Mason-Dixon line. By Friday morning, Atlanta wakes up to temperatures near 18 degrees. That's the kind of cold that burst water pipes. Even Florida isn't immune. Jacksonville could see its first hard freeze of the season, with temperatures dropping to 28 degrees. Midwest, you're ground zero for this weather transformation. Chicago, you're about to experience what I can only describe as Arctic punishment. Current conditions show 38 degrees and breezy. That's actually pleasant for December. But Wednesday night brings the storm system. We're forecasting 4 to 8 inches of snow with wind gusts over 50 miles per hour Wednesday night into Thursday across the Great Lakes. But here's the kicker. Behind that snow comes the coldest air mass of the winter season so far. Minneapolis, you could see actual air temperatures of minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit by Saturday morning. Wind chills approaching minus 35 degrees Fahrenheit. My specific recommendation for the Midwest: if you haven't winterized yet, do it Tuesday. This cold is coming fast and staying long. Mountain West, this is where the pattern gets really complex. Denver, you're sitting in the battle zone between air masses. Current conditions show 52 degrees under partly cloudy skies. But a sharp cold front arrives Wednesday evening. We're forecasting a 35-degree temperature drop in 12 hours, with snow developing across the Front Range and foothills. The mountains could see blizzard conditions with wind gusts over 60 miles per hour and snowfall rates of 2 to 3 inches per hour. Pacific Northwest, here's where this gets interesting. You're actually going to warm up while everyone else freezes. Current conditions show typical December weather. Seattle at 45 degrees with light rain. But a ridge builds in behind the storm. By the weekend, Seattle could reach 55 degrees while Chicago is dealing with sub-zero temperatures. This temperature contrast, 70 degrees difference between Seattle and Minneapolis, is what's driving this intense weather pattern. South Central Texas to Louisiana, you guys are going to experience whiplash like never before. Current conditions show Dallas at 68 degrees and Houston at 75 degrees. It feels more like spring than December. But Friday night into Saturday, the bottom drops out. Dallas could see temperatures fall to 15 degrees by Saturday morning. That's a potential 50-degree temperature crash in less than 48 hours. Power grids are already being put on high alert. Now here's where this gets really concerning: the duration of this cold pattern. Unlike typical Arctic blasts that last 3 to 5 days, this setup could maintain sub-zero temperatures for over a week. Don't miss what I'm about to reveal, because this determines whether your holiday plans survive intact. The most critical factor is understanding that this isn't just one storm. It's a pattern change that reshapes the entire weather map. Here's exactly what you need to do in the next 48 hours. Step 1. If you're traveling for Christmas, modify your plans now, not later. Step 2. For those in the impact zones, secure heating, fuel, and emergency supplies by Wednesday morning before the rush begins. Step 3. Check on elderly neighbors and relatives. This kind of cold can overwhelm heating systems and create dangerous situations. Let me tell you what I'm seeing in the extended models that has energy companies scrambling to adjust their forecasts. Natural gas demand is expected to spike to levels typically seen in late January or February, but this is happening in December. Power grids from Texas to Maine are being stress tested for scenarios they haven't faced in several years. The economic impact of this cold wave is already being calculated. We're talking billions in additional energy costs. But here's where this story takes an unexpected turn. What happens after Christmas? Instead of the pattern relaxing, computer models suggest another reinforcing shot of Arctic air around December 28th. This could create the coldest New Year's week in over a decade for much of the eastern two-thirds of the country. What does this mean for New Year's Eve celebrations? Outdoor events from Chicago to Atlanta may need to be modified or canceled. Let me share something that might surprise you. This pattern is being driven by ocean temperatures thousands of miles away. La Niña conditions in the Pacific Ocean are helping to lock this weather pattern in place, creating persistence we rarely see. The last time we had a similar combination of factors was the brutal winter of 2013 to 2014, which brought record cold to 49 states. Stick around for the shocking development at the 8-minute mark, where I'll reveal what this means for January and beyond. Now, let me walk you through hour-by-hour timing for the most critical 72-hour period starting Wednesday evening. Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Light snow begins across the northern Great Lakes. Temperature, Chicago 35 degrees Fahrenheit, still mild. Wednesday, 11 p.m. Snow intensifies with wind gusts increasing. Temperature begins dropping rapidly across the Midwest. At the 8-minute mark, here's the shocking development. This Arctic air mass is so massive, it's visible from space. Satellite imagery shows a dome of high pressure stretching from northern Canada to Hudson Bay, over 2,000 miles across. The core of this air mass has temperatures at 5,000 feet of minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the kind of cold that creates those impressive ice crystals in the air. Thursday, 6 a.m. The Arctic front reaches Chicago. Temperature, 12 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind chills approaching minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Thursday, 2 p.m. The cold front races through Ohio and Kentucky. Louisville drops from 45 degrees Fahrenheit to 20 degrees Fahrenheit in 4 hours. Thursday, 8 p.m. The front reaches the mid-Atlantic. Washington, D.C. experiences a temperature crash from 50 degrees Fahrenheit to 25 degrees Fahrenheit. This isn't just cold weather. It's a meteorological freight train carrying Arctic air at highway speeds. Why are agricultural experts deeply concerned about this pattern? Because it's arriving before crops and livestock are fully prepared. Orange groves in Florida that survived the mild start to December could face devastating freeze conditions this weekend. Cattle ranchers across the southern plains are moving herds to sheltered areas and increasing feed rations. But wait, there's something developing that could make this situation even more complex: a potential ice storm. As this Arctic air advances south, it's going to undercut warmer air, still trapped near the surface in some areas. What happens when you have 40-degree air above and 20-degree air at the surface? You get freezing rain. Parts of Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Tennessee could see significant ice accumulations Thursday night into Friday. Even a quarter-inch of ice can knock out power to hundreds of thousands, and this could be much worse. Now here's where this story takes another unexpected turn: the lake effect snow potential. When Arctic air this cold moves over the relatively warm Great Lakes, it creates perfect conditions for massive snow bands. Buffalo and Syracuse could see their first major lake effect event of the season, with snowfall rates of 3 to 4 inches per hour. Some areas downwind of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario could pick up 2 to 3 feet of snow by Sunday morning. Emergency management officials in western New York are already positioning snow removal equipment and opening shelters. But here's what really concerns me: the wind chill values we're forecasting for this weekend. Parts of North Dakota and northern Minnesota could see wind chills approaching minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit Saturday and Sunday. That's cold enough to cause frostbite in under 5 minutes of exposed skin. This is legitimately dangerous cold. Schools across the northern tier are already making decisions about Monday closures based on these extreme forecasts. Don't miss the next part, because I'm about to reveal the most critical safety information for the next week. For those in rural areas, especially farmers and ranchers, this cold snap requires immediate action to protect livestock. Waterers need to be checked hourly once temperatures drop below 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Frozen water systems can create emergency situations quickly. Urban areas face different but equally serious challenges. Homeless shelter systems are activating emergency protocols. Cities from Chicago to Atlanta are opening additional warming centers and extending public transit hours. For homeowners, this is the time to check your heating system, insulate exposed pipes, and ensure backup power sources work. Now let me address something that might surprise you about this cold outbreak: the air quality implications. Extremely cold air creates temperature inversions that can trap pollutants near the surface in urban areas. People with respiratory conditions should limit outdoor exposure, especially during the coldest morning hours. The combination of cold air and increased heating demand could create air quality challenges in major cities. Vehicle emissions also increase dramatically in extreme cold as engines work harder to maintain operating temperatures. But here's what's most important for your family's safety: understanding how to recognize hypothermia and frostbite. In wind chills below minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit, exposed skin can freeze in less than 30 minutes. Fingers, toes, and nose are most vulnerable. Early signs of frostbite include numbness, tingling, and skin that appears red, then pale or white. Hypothermia symptoms start with shivering and confusion. If someone stops shivering in extreme cold, that's a medical emergency. For those who must work outdoors, dress in layers, take frequent warm-up breaks, and never work alone in these conditions. Emergency responders are already reporting increased calls related to cold weather exposure, and the worst is yet to come. Vehicle safety becomes critical when temperatures drop this low. Keep emergency kits in your car with blankets and food. Car batteries fail more frequently in extreme cold. If your battery is over 3 years old, consider replacement now. Tire pressure drops significantly in cold weather. Check and adjust tire pressure before venturing out. Now, let me address what's happening with energy systems, because this affects everyone. Electric utilities across the cold zone are implementing load management programs to prevent grid overload. Natural gas demand is spiking to levels that strain distribution systems, especially in areas not accustomed to extreme cold. Texas power grid operators remember the February 2021 freeze and are taking proactive measures this time. Wind turbines in cold-prone areas have been equipped with de-icing systems, and backup generators are being tested. For consumers, this means significantly higher energy bills as heating demand reaches peak levels. Don't miss what I'm about to reveal about the post-Christmas forecast, because it could affect New Year's plans. The extended forecast shows this Arctic pattern potentially lasting through January 2nd, creating a, quote, bookend winter. We started December mild and could end it with some of the coldest weather in years, then transition into a harsh January. New Year's Day 2026 could feature temperatures 25 to 35 degrees below normal from the Rockies to the Atlantic. This would make it one of the coldest New Year's days on record for cities like Chicago, Detroit, and Cleveland. Airlines are already adjusting January schedules based on these projections, expecting significant weather-related delays. If you have travel planned for the first week of January, consider booking backup options or flexible tickets now. The good news is that February looks to bring some moderation as the polar vortex potentially restabilizes. But we're talking about 4 to 6 weeks of persistently cold weather that could reshape winter energy markets. This pattern is so significant that climate scientists are studying it for insights into future winter variability. Historical analogs suggest this could be remembered as one of the most dramatic December pattern changes in decades. Temperature records from the 1980s and 1990s could be challenged as this Arctic air mass reaches unprecedented southward extent. Even coastal areas that typically moderate winter temperatures could see their coldest readings in 10 to 15 years. But here's where this gets really interesting from a meteorological perspective: the jet stream configuration. Instead of the typical wavy pattern, we're seeing what's called an amplified meridional flow setting up. This creates deep troughs in the east and strong ridges in the west, locking cold air in place for extended periods. The mathematics of atmospheric dynamics suggest this pattern could maintain itself through positive feedback loops. Cold air increases atmospheric density, which strengthens high-pressure systems, which maintain the cold air flow. Breaking this pattern typically requires a significant external forcing, which isn't forecast until late January. Now, let me address something that's been concerning public health officials: the increased medical risks. Hospital emergency departments are preparing for increased admissions related to cold exposure and carbon monoxide poisoning. Heart attacks increase significantly during extreme cold as blood vessels constrict and hearts work harder. Slip and fall injuries spike on icy surfaces, and snow removal activities stress cardiovascular systems. Mental health impacts also increase during prolonged cold periods as seasonal affective patterns intensify. For vulnerable populations, elderly, young children, and those with chronic conditions, this cold requires special precautions. Medication storage becomes critical, as some prescriptions lose effectiveness if frozen or exposed to extreme temperature swings. Stick around for the most important part coming up: how this weather pattern affects you personally over the holiday. For those planning Christmas gatherings, indoor venues become essential as outdoor celebrations become dangerous. Travel between December 22nd and 26th faces the highest risk of weather-related complications in recent years. Airport operations could face significant challenges as aircraft de-icing procedures take longer in extreme cold. Rental car companies are already repositioning vehicles to warmer climates to prevent mechanical issues. Freight transportation faces massive challenges as diesel fuel gels and truck batteries fail in extreme cold. Supply chain disruptions could affect everything from groceries to heating fuel delivery in the most impacted areas. Retail businesses are adjusting holiday hours and staffing as customer traffic patterns shift during extreme weather. Now here's what I need you to understand about the cascading effects of this weather pattern. School districts may face the difficult decision of extending winter break if heating systems can't maintain safe temperatures. Municipal water systems in smaller communities risk freezing if underground infrastructure isn't adequately protected. Agricultural impacts extend beyond immediate crop damage to affect spring planting decisions and soil preparation. Wildlife management becomes critical as normal food sources become inaccessible under heavy snow and ice. But here's where this story has some positive aspects: the long-term climate implications. This cold pattern helps rebuild snowpack in mountainous areas, supporting water supplies for next year's growing season. Extreme cold helps control insect populations that can damage crops and spread diseases. Ground frost penetration helps prepare soil for spring planting by breaking up compacted earth layers. Ice fishing and winter recreation industries see a boost as lakes and ponds achieve safe ice thickness earlier than normal. Energy conservation behaviors learned during this extreme period often persist, reducing long-term consumption. Community preparedness improves as neighbors help neighbors, and emergency response systems are tested and refined. Don't miss the next part because I'm about to share the survival timeline and recovery outlook. Recovery from this cold outbreak will be gradual, with the first meaningful moderation not expected until mid-January. Infrastructure damage assessment will take weeks as utilities work to restore services in the hardest-hit areas. Agricultural losses will continue accumulating as livestock stress and crop damage extend beyond the initial cold shock. Insurance claims related to frozen pipes, heating system failures, and weather-related accidents will peak in January. Economic impacts include reduced retail sales, increased energy costs, and productivity losses from weather-related closures. But here's what gives me confidence about our ability to handle this challenge: the preparation time we've been given. Modern weather forecasting has provided 5 to 7 days advance warning, allowing communities to prepare systematically. Emergency management protocols developed after previous cold events are being activated smoothly across multiple states. Utility companies have hardened infrastructure and improved cold weather operational procedures significantly. Public awareness of cold weather dangers has increased, leading to better individual and family preparedness. This demonstrates that while we can't prevent extreme weather, we can minimize its impact through preparation and cooperation. Now, let me share specific protective actions for the next critical 5-day period starting Wednesday. Wednesday, complete all outdoor preparations, protect pipes, service heating systems, and secure emergency supplies. Thursday, stay indoors as much as possible. Monitor weather alerts and check on neighbors, especially elderly residents. Friday, avoid unnecessary travel. If you must go out, dress in layers and carry emergency supplies in vehicles. Saturday, Sunday, peak cold period. Minimize outdoor exposure and maintain awareness of hypothermia symptoms. Monday, gradual warming begins in western areas, but dangerous cold continues across the eastern 2/3 of the country. As we wrap up this comprehensive forecast, here are the 3 most critical things you need to remember. First, this is not a typical cold snap, but a pattern change that could persist for weeks. Prepare for sustained cold conditions. Second, the temperature swings are extreme and rapid. What feels mild Wednesday could be dangerous by Friday. Third, community support systems become essential. Check on neighbors, share resources, and follow emergency protocols. This weekend through Christmas week will test our resilience, but the weather pattern shows signs of stability by New Year's Day. High pressure gradually builds eastward by January 2nd, allowing temperatures to moderate and ending this extreme phase. Normal winter weather returns by mid-January, though it will still be seasonably cold compared to recent mild winters. We've faced challenges like this before and emerged stronger. This winter will test us, but it will also remind us what real winter feels like. Americans are resilient, prepared, and experienced with extreme weather. We adapt, we help each other, and we persevere. This cold outbreak will be remembered as significant, but more importantly, it will be remembered as something we overcame together. In my next forecast, I'll reveal the stunning January weather pattern developing. The surprising warm-up that could make late January feel like early spring in some areas. Why this extreme temperature swing could create the most volatile winter weather in decades. The unprecedented storm potential that develops when Arctic air collides with returning warmth. Stay warm, stay safe, and remember, when in doubt about travel or outdoor activities, don't risk it. Your safety and your family's well-being are worth more than any schedule or convenience. I'm Michael Thompson, and I'll be back tomorrow with critical updates as this historic pattern change unfolds. Take care of yourselves, look out for your neighbors, and prepare for a winter week like we haven't seen in years. Bundle up, be smart, and remember, this too shall pass. We'll get through this together, just like we always do.